today I wanted to do a review, a commission review from Suzuki2146, a very avid subscriber. Thank you, BTW. And the movie that he and or she wanted us to review for him and or her is the film Mysterious Skin, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Now, unlike my other commission review, this is a movie I'd actually seen and owned already, so I guess my only excuse for being late with it is I'm lazy and I'm in school and we just moved. And the first time I did try to do this video once before, and my upstairs neighbor, I think she got nervous because she heard talking, so she turned up her music really loud, and that kind of put an end to the vlog. But so far, so good. Okay, so I guess I will just begin by talking a little bit about the plot, as these reviews usually go. Now, this movie is a dual narrative, meaning it has two different narrative threads that are sort of running at the same time. And the movie begins by talking about these two kids who were on the same Little League team when they were children, and they both had these encounters with their coach, who was a child molester, and they both sort of take it in a completely different way. The one, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he kind of becomes reckless and sexually confused, and he hasn't really quite found himself, so he interprets this event as in a much more dangerous way. He begins to hustle, and he's a male prostitute, and he isn't very safe. And he decides he wants to move to New York and get away from his southern small town, and so he moves away, and things kind of only get worse for him there. And he has a best friend played by Michelle Trachtenberg, who secretly is in love with him, but doesn't quite know how to tell him that she doesn't approve of his lifestyle. The other character is played by Brady Corbet, who is a little less famous. You may have seen him in the movie Funny Games. He is the quiet one with glasses, and he's on the back of that, actually, so you can see Brady Corbet. And he blocked the event out entirely. The only way he can really rationalize the missing time is he thinks he was abducted by an alien, so he becomes very obsessed with alien abduction, and he reaches out to a woman in a surrounding neighborhood who also thinks that she was abducted by an alien, and they sort of have a strange relationship. At the same time, after Neil, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, moves to New York, Brady Colbert's character befriends his best friend and tries to learn more about what may have happened that night. So, the underlying tension of the movie is what's going to happen when these two characters finally meet and be able to talk about it. And that becomes the climax of the movie. This film is directed by Gregg Araki, who is a Japanese-American film director who was kind of instrumental in the early 90s alternative film, LBGT cinema / just independent film in general movement. For his first film, The Living End, was kind of one of those up there with like Drugstore Cowboy and Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and those kind of movies that defined the early 90s independent movement. And he later went on to do other movies such as Totally Fucked Up and The Doom Generation. Now, the only other movies I've seen by him is The Living End, which is a little dated, and it's definitely a low-budget kind of thing. It doesn't completely work, but it's alright. And The Doom Generation, which I think is basically just natural-born killers without a point. I wasn't a huge fan of that movie, and that was the only other movie I'd seen before I saw Mysterious Skin. So when I saw that Gregg Araki's name popped up as the director when I started watching it, I said, oh, here we go. but I actually think that he was a very good director for this movie because he doesn't hide away from things. He sort of likes to be, he's sort of a shock value director in a lot of ways, and I think a lot of times to his detriment. But in this movie, I think that his sensibility really was helpful, because a lot of people, when dealing with this kind of heavy, dark subject matter, they tend to shy away, they tend to only imply, and they don't exactly know how to treat the characters. But Gregg Araki has two things going for him in this movie to make him a kind of the perfect director for this book that was adapted. And that is, one, he is just willing to go for it, and you know, he has almost an exploitive sensibility, but in this movie he is just very honest, and the truth hurts, and the truth is not comfortable. I'd say this is probably, would be in my top 10 most uncomfortable films I've ever seen, but it is very powerful, and it's very true, and it's very real, and he just lets the truth be what it is. And two, the second thing being why he was good for this movie, is that he is homosexual, and he deals a lot with gay themes, and I think that a straight director would have not come at the material at the same way. I think that he, with knowing what he knows personally, he was able to have more interesting insights into the character of Neil, especially played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And there's it makes for a more personal statement within the movie, whereas I think that if a Ron Howard, not that Ron Howard would ever do something like this, but you know what I mean, just a regular Hollywood straight middle-aged director would not have the same kind of understanding of these characters that Gregg Araki did with his background. So, the reasons to go see this movie, or the reasons to rent this movie, is that the performances are really, really, really good. This was the first film I saw. No, it wasn't. Brick was the first film I saw with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, where I started to realize that he was becoming a really interesting, good actor. But this would be the second one, and I still think, even after Inception and Brick and The Lookout and all these other movies, these like independent / newer things he's doing, that his performance in this movie is still my favorite of his. It's just, he just goes at it with no abandon, and just knows what he's doing, and he knows this character, and he can tell there's a love for this project, and there's a love for his character, that he really wants to represent this character. Because honestly, just on paper, the character's not very likable. He's kind of shitty to his friends, and he is reckless, and he just could come off as being rather obnoxious and hard to like. But Joseph Gordon-Levitt puts a lot of heart into the character. Also, with his background coming from TV and Third Rock from the Sun, and as a child actor, we can sort of... Actually, he did a child baseball movie, strangely enough, called Angels in the Outfield. But with that background, we were able to empathize with the character a lot more. And his performance is brilliant, as well as Brady Culvert. He comes at this character very, very, very nicely, and he plays this innocence and this loss of innocence really, really well. And you just feel so sorry for him, especially, well, the two, really, they're both kind of got the raw deal, but him especially, your heart breaks, which is the second thing I really like about this movie, is that it's just very emotional. And I think that's why Gregg Araki's other movies, specifically The Doom Generation, which I didn't really like, don't work, is because there's no emotional component. It's all tongue-in-cheek and snarky and cynical, and you just feel kind of like, well, what was the point of all of that? But with this movie, the core is emotional. So all of the external stuff, all of the extremities and the oh my god moments only help to balance that emotional core. I really like this movie a lot. It's not a movie I can exactly recommend to everybody, because it is just, It's just really hard-edged. It goes there. It's unrated. I don't even think they tried to get the R. So it's not a comfortable film. You're not going. This isn't just a sit down on the couch with your girlfriend and eat popcorn kind of movie. This is a rough flick, but it's definitely worth it if you're a fan of independent filmmaking and a fan of LBGT cinema, a fan of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, especially any of these things. You will enjoy this movie. So I can't really recommend it enough, and I'd say give it a shot, but just know what you're getting into. I personally loved it. I bought it, and it's my favorite of Gregg Araki's movies that I've seen so far. And that's saying something, seeing how much I didn't like Doom Generation, that he was able to completely win me over. So there you go. That's my at-home review. I'll try and get this up to date, and on Monday we'll be filming a new episode. We'll be talking about the Killers and MacGruber and Harry Brown, as well as Machete, which I need to go out and see before we film on Monday. And the reviews will probably be up around Tuesday or Wednesday on YouTube. So we'll see you then. Bye.